Arn Anderson. We're going to discuss Arn Anderson's greatest tag team partners. Now, greatest is a bit subjective. You could rank that by championships, you could rank that by quality of matches or prestige or even length of the team, fame. But this is just kind of a combination of all those factors. You just go with me, okay? Now, Arn Anderson is a great tag team wrestler. Now, since I've been a wrestling fan, there was, wrestling tag teams or tag team wrestlers that my uncle would tell me about. Um, Guys like Mr. Fuji and Tony Garea, guys that seem to specialize in tag team warfare, tag team matches. Maybe didn't have singles championships as much as they did have tag teams. Of course, they could wrestle singles if they wanted to, but oft we would think of them as tag team specialists. Now, Arn Anderson started to kind of find himself in that mold, although he was a great singles wrestler as well. And many people think of him as perhaps the greatest all-time NWA World Television Champion or WCW World Television Champion. Arn and Barry Windham had a great singles match at Slamboree 93. If you're looking for a great singles match with Arn Anderson, go to Slamboree 93 against Barry Windham. Now, this is the top 10 tag teams. Yes, one wrestler, Arn Anderson. His career was cut short. I mean, he started, I want to say in 82, went to 97. So, about a 15-year career. And let's go number 10. My opinion, Arn Anderson and Barry Windham. Halloween Havoc 95, I believe. Arn Anderson and Brian Pillman teamed up against Ric Flair and Sting. No spoilers for me. But that led to kind of the recreation of a Four Horsemen, a unique horseman group that kind of was highlighted at Starrcade 95. So no spoilers on that for younger fans. But for those that know the deal, Arn and Pillman did not team a whole lot, but for a couple of weeks there, Arn and Pillman were a great team. Number 10. Of course, they had history feuding with each other. Arn and Ric Flair against Brian Pillman and Steve Austin as the Hollywood Blondes. Moving forth, number 9. Kind of an era that we don't think about Arn a whole lot in his career achievements. Arn Anderson in the Stud Stable. Yes. Kind of an interesting time for Arn. Kind of late fall 1994 all the way into spring of 95. Arn Anderson was in the WCW, but he wasn't teaming up with Ric Flair, although Ric Flair was there as well. Arn was part of the Stud Stable. I believe Colonel Rob Fuller had Meng as kind of the bodyguard, had Bunkhouse Buck, who I think used to wrestle as Jimmy Golden, if I've got that straight, in Southeast territories. But Arn Anderson and Bunkhouse Buck, who I believe was formerly Jimmy Golden, if I have that right. I could be wrong on that, but in any goddamn event. Arn and Bunkhouse Buck, number 9. Number 8, and here's where things get interesting. Going way back, Arn Anderson and Matt Bourne. Now, I want to say, and it's funny because I do this. I don't do, quote, research before I do this stuff. I go by the goddamn brain. I want to say that Arn Anderson and Matt Bourne were Georgia National Tag Team Champions for literally a cup of coffee. Had the belts very briefly. I think something happened with Matt Bourne and they were stripped of those belts, which actually led to the Road Warriors coming in. So I'm going to go with Matt Bourne and Arn Anderson. Young guys, and unfortunately Matt Bourne has passed away. Matt Bourne, of course, had a very interesting career as Doink. Also was an ECW as Born Again. But Matt Bourne and Arn Anderson, number 8 on my list. Now, from here on out, we're going to start hearing tag teams that most of you are probably familiar with. Number 7, Arn Anderson and Paul Roma. Now, they did have the World Tag Team titles. The WCW World Tag Team titles in 1993. They defeated kind of a makeshift team, a substitute team. Lord, what was he called? Steven Regal at the time. And Stunning Steve Austin, the two Steves, were kind of put in a bad spot because Flying Brian Pillman was injured from the Hollywood Blondes. Hollywood Blondes never really lost the belts to Arn and Roma. But Arn and Roma beating Regal and Austin at a Clash. Can't take that away from them. Arn and Roma would then, I think, lose the belts to the Nasty Boys. I think Arn and Roma just had the belts once. It's tempting to think that they traded them with the Nasty Boys, but I don't think they did. Roma just kind of faded from the Horsemen. Didn't have a really good Horseman feud. I think that would have been nice. I don't think that Arn and Roma. I think they might have wrestled once on fucking Saturday night, WCW Saturday night in '93, late '93 or some such thing. But Arn and Roma, as baby faces, it was a tough spot for both guys. I mean, Roma's a very experienced tag team wrestler with Hercules and Power and Glory, the Young Stallions with Jimmy Powers. He would go on, Paul Roma that is, to team with Paul Orndorff, and probably Roma's best team, Pretty Wonderful. But I'm just going to go with Arn Anderson and Paul Roma for number 7. No disrespect to the team, but they weren't booked well and so forth. Number 6, woo! Arn Anderson and Ric Flair coming in at number 6. Now, a lot of people don't remember that they actually teamed all the way back at Halloween Havoc 1990 against Doom for the NWA World Tag Team title. It was still called the NWA World Tag Team title right before it got switched to being called WCW World Tag Team title. But Arn and Rick, number 6, moving forth about 6 years to the Great American Bash 96, I think they took on, and I'm doing this all by my goddamn brain, folks. They took on Steve Mongo McMichael and Kevin Green, which led to another Four Horsemen era, and 96 Horsemen with Mongo. But Arn Anderson and Ric Flair had a lot of fun fucking matches together. They did lose a handicap match to Vader to Clash, and they did have a rivalry. They did have a short-lived rivalry, but Arn and Rick, and probably a lot of house shows in the Carolinas, probably going back to the mid-'80s. I mean, Tully Blanchard was really the partner for both of these guys, but when Tully was out of the Horsemen, come 1988, late '88, never got back into the Horsemen officially. You can really say that Arn was his go-to guy, Rick's that is. So Arn and Rick, they never had the belts though, never had any tag team titles together. An interesting pick might be a controversial low pick. This was really a tough one for me to go to this low with this team. You could really make a case for this team to go all the way to number 2. It really just depends on the person ranking and the feeling of the moment. And I'm looking at it now, and I'm actually kind of debating this pick. But I'm going to stick with what I wrote down. Arn Anderson and Beautiful Bobby Eaton, number 5. I know that seems low. And it's a tough one because we're really getting to some fucking great teams here. But I think what held these guys back, for me at least, they were part of the Dangerous Alliance. They did have the NWA World Tag Team title, the WCW World Tag Team title, I believe in early 1992. This was the non-Flair era, and Stan Lane's gone from the NWA WCW. Cornette's gone. No J.J. Dillon, and so Paul E. Dangerously put Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton as a team in part of the Dangerous Alliance. They did win the belts over Steamboat and Dustin Rhodes. They lost the belts, I believe, at Super Brawl 2 to the Steiners. But Arn Anderson and Bobby Eaton are my number 5. Why, it's almost like, instead of saying why they're ranked so high, why are they ranked so low? I mean, I know a lot of people, probably Cornette himself, would take issue with this. I don't know if they meshed. It was like it's like there wasn't a charisma guy in that team. Like you got 2 steaks but no sizzle. And that's not to say that these guys didn't have sizzle, but Bobby was not a talker. Arn was a great talker. But as we move forth in the rankings, I think you might agree with who I said next. At number 4, moving forth, Arn Anderson, and this is going to surprise you, Barry Windham. Yes, this is a personal favorite. I mean, if I were just ranking, there you can see Barry and Arn together as a Horseman. If I were ranking my personal combinations, I might say that Arn Anderson and Barry Windham were my personal favorite. I'm just a big Barry Windham fan, Arn Anderson fan, and I always felt that Barry and Arn, their match with fucking Doom, Butch Reed and Ron Simmons at Starrcade 1990 in St. Louis was great. They had a match, I believe, in Japan of early '91 on that Japanese. My hair is horrible today. Um, God damn it, I look like goddamn shit. But I think that Arn Anderson and Barry Windham were just a fucking great team. Sometimes you'd see them, in that Horseman, like 1990 Horseman with Sid and everything. But I just really liked Arn Anderson and Barry Windham. Even after the Horsemen officially broke up in early 91, Arn and Barry continued to tag team together as friends. Of course, as I said earlier, they ended up wrestling each other at Slamboree 93. But don't let that stop you from ranking Arn and Barry. They never had any belts together. I just fucking like them as a team. I'm sorry. Number three, the Cruncher. Larry Zbyszko and Arn Anderson, the Enforcers. This team, once again, was part of the Dangerous Alliance. They actually came first before the Eaton Arn combo. But the reason why I'm putting these guys so high is that, I mean, check out their promos together. Arn and Zbyszko. I mean, those were two guys who could just talk. This really brought out a dark side in Larry Zbyszko, a mercenary, a rough side of Larry Zbyszko. This was kind of Zbyszko's last, not to say his last run, because he had a few more runs in him. I mean, he had the TV title in '94. I mean, people forget about Larry Zbyszko as a babyface in '94 against, once again, Lord Steven Regal. And then '97 against Bischoff, his stuff with Raven. I'm talking about Zbyszko now. Raven and Zbyszko in TNA. All the way to his Hall of Fame induction, but I got to give it up for I'm just giving up for Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko, the Enforcers. Ironically enough, I mean all these players, the Barry Windhams, the Brian Pillmans, the Bobby Eatons, Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko actually broke Barry Windham's arm outside the arena, which I think could have been Detroit in Halloween Havoc '91. And taking Barry Windham out of that Electric Chamber match, whatever the hell it was, the Halloween Horrors match. So, and making Barry a face. I'm just, if you live this stuff, then you know all this crap. But basically, I'm going with Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko, the Enforcers. They won a tag team title tournament over Rick Steiner and Bill Kazmaier at a Clash, I think in September of '91. Then the next month, I think they just had the belts for like 2 months or maybe less, and they lost it to Steamboat and Dustin. And they split up the team. They put Bobby Eaton with Arn in the whole Dangerous Alliance, shoo, shoo, shoo. And then Zbyszko went babyface. But I really liked that. They were Tag Team of the Year, Pro Wrestling Illustrated Tag Team of the Year. Looking through the list real quick, I don't think there was any other tag team that was Tag Team of the Year besides the Enforcers until we get to a later pick. So anyway, Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko are your number three for Arn's greatest tag teams. And number two, so now you're pretty much thinking, like, what's it going to be? For hardcore wrestling fans who know the deal, you really get down to two tag teams that Arn Anderson were in, championship teams that were part of the Four Horsemen. And you're thinking, well, it could be one of these guys, or it could be another guy that we don't see in that the Golden Era Horseman portrait right there. Okay. From Nuclear Heat Graphics. So who am I going with, folks? I am saying number two is Ole and Arn Anderson. Yes, I'm going with Ole at number two. National Tag Team Champions, often misspoken, even by Flair, even by JJ. They never had the NWA World Tag Team Champions. They never had the WCW World Tag Team Championships. They had the National Tag Team titles, which was a hangover from Georgia Championship Wrestling. Ole and Arn, great team. Minnesota Wrecking Crew, working the arm. My number one pick is Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. I need to cut off Ole and Arn. They at Starrcade '85, they beat Billy Jack Haynes and Wahoo. At Starrcade '86, they lost to the Rock and Rolls. But Tully and Arn, number one pick. Why? Two-time NWA World Tag Team Champions, defeating the Rock and Roll Express in late '87, and then losing and regaining the belts over Barry Windham and Lex Luger. Tully and Arn go to WWF, beating Demolition for the tag team titles, losing them about 2 months later. Unfortunately, that was the last we saw of Tully and Arn of late '88. They went, and the whole thing with Tully and blah, blah, blah. I'm wrapping this up at 15 minutes. MikeMessier.com. Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson are your number one team. Arn Anderson, great tag team wrestler, great singles wrestler as well. But, I mean, how great is it that he had 10 tag teams to think about? Mike